go.
Welcome to Get Tied On, brought to you by wizardracingsports.com. I'm Tom Amello. He's Michael Kipnis. And away we go this week. Michael, you know, we got we're heading into August. It's always been an August meet, and this weekend had good crowds, really good crowds, and so I think that with the Whitney coming up and with the Travers Field kind of set, we're going to gain some more momentum on this meet, and I think everyone's looking forward to it. The racing has been fine. The handle has been more than fine, and Naira's sitting in a good position here.
The weather was much better this week. It wasn't as much humidity. Everything stayed on the turf. The Jim Dandy crowd was the largest Jim Dandy crowd in the history of as long as I remember, and what they recorded and handle. The place was jammed that day, and then we're not even in August, so it was.
Yeah, it was a good. It was a great racing day. It was a good crowd. It was a field of horses that fans are familiar with. There were questions about every horse in the field, and one question was answered. Fierceness showed up.
Well, yeah, I mean he's a Jekyll and Hyde type of horse. I wasn't sure, nor was it, a lot of people what version of Fierceness would show up, and we'll talk about that when we get to Saturday. But it was a good race. It was a 2-horse race on paper, and it played out that way.
That's right. So let's recap this week with your notes, and we'll talk our way through those.
Well, Wednesday there was no bias on that I saw. Race 3, Echo and Eternity wins at 5-1. Bruce Levine, our old friend Bruce Levine, who's
he's got 3 wins now.
He continues to hold a hot hand, and Rudy Rodriguez continues to be ice cold. He hasn't won a race in God knows 30-something starters. He had the favor chasing Daylight. Those outside posts in large fields going that 1 mile out of the Wilson chute, very, very tough. He got hung out to dry early, and he had too much to overcome and faded.
I'll just say this, outside posts are a concern. If the horse has got speed or tactical speed and you've got a real top jockey on him, I think it's less of a concern, but it's still a concern.
It's a concern because you're going to get hard used early to get position. Race 5, Funny Uncle, second start from Mike Maker off the claim. Maker had a very good week. He's very live. He won that race on Wednesday and the nightcap on Sunday. Flying Peace Stable, that's his owner.
Mm-hmm.
They're a hot owner. They've won a few races themselves. Race 7, Spirit Wind, 5-1. I actually sniffed out that horse primarily because Mike Smith's in for the ride.
Right.
We haven't seen Mike Smith in a few years here. It was for trainer Safi Joseph. He was very aggressive out of the gate, took the lead, opened up, and that was it.
I'm going to say this, and we've talked about this before. I'm a nutcase about the water truck. That race was another example of 2 turf races precede a sprint, and the front's always better. Always better.
Yeah.
Mike Smith's ridden a few races here, and I think he knew the track would carry speed. He wanted the lead. He got the lead. Was never really told.
And he's won the Amsterdam twice.
Yeah.
He won the last time he won the Amsterdam was over 20 years ago. Riding double on Wednesday for Dylan Davis and Jose Ortiz. Thursday, another Gone By. Now, here's a horse that I picked as a best bet, and I foiled myself because I cut down my wager. How many times do you see a morning line horse? He was 3-1 on the morning line, and he opens up at 8-1. That's dead on the board. Closes at 7-1. They rarely win, except after I halved my bet on that horse, and I really liked him, but it was scared off by the dead on the board situation. But I don't think that applies at Saratoga. There's too much money in the pools. There's a lot of uninformed money.
Who took the money in that race? Do you remember?
Condiment Girl was heavily bet. I think that was a Linda Rice horse.
Okay.
It was 8-5. I didn't think that horse took steam all the way. Another day gone by, it was a shipper. It should have been 5-2, 3-1. When it's sitting at 7-1, you won.
David Aragona makes him the favorite,
and he's a good morning lines maker.
He's a good
and at downstate, they never win.
Right.
Here, they do win because there's a lot of uninformed money in the pools. Race 5, Unlimited Potential. Here was a horse from Pletcher, bought for $750,000 and dropped to maiden 16. Won for fun and fast time. But obviously, he didn't want to be the last one holding the bag.
That is something that amazes me, because during the Saratoga meet, you can see almost every day of the week in these maiden claiming races, some horse, six-figure horse in for 20K or 30K or 16K. And I'm wondering, we're sitting here at the table and we're talking to all you folks, but I'd like to have a camera at the table when trainer X is explaining to owner Y, well, I got you to spend $800,000 on this horse, but he's no good and we better give him away. And then I want to be at the other table where the good claiming trainers are salivating because they want this horse for the future.
I don't know how many people went in for this horse for maiden 16, but someone's going to be left holding the bag, and it won't be too long.
No.
Now, on the other side of the coin is Torpedo Anna, that was purchased for $40,000 by Ken McKee.
We talked about that.
$8 to $10 million.
Yeah, we talked about that. That's rolling the dice and winning.
Race 10. Well, my hat's off to you for a great pick.
Oh, thank you.
That front-running horse at 30 to whatever ridiculous price it was, and gets nailed by a two-speed number on Mizertonic, ridden. Who beats you?
Yeah,
Frankie Dettori.
But not only Frankie, the horse was off 2 years.
Right.
Right.
And wins. And I watched. I went down to the winner's circle, and he leaps off doing his Frankie jump, and he turns to the camera and he goes, "Tommaso, you lose."
Yeah. Well, that's a conversation. My father. We don't talk too much. You talk a little bit about your father. And your upbringing. My father hated favorites and was always looking for a long shot, and we've talked about that. And so I try to find one. Occasionally, I find one I think is going to run well because of the circumstances. But my father used to tell me that he could have been a contender, except circumstances got in the way.
Right.
What are the things that prevent you from making a good bet? This is the truth, folks. I made an early bet on that horse, fully expecting to be home watching the race and would make whatever other bet I was going to make. But it turned out we went out for dinner, and I'm standing in a bar that doesn't have Wi-Fi, and I can't bet on my phone.
Oh, you're going back to bet again?
Well, I'm watching her. I see the price. I said, okay, I'm going to try to. I tried to. We've talked. You have a long shot. You've always told me, and we've always talked to the public. You bet him to win. And if it's a real long shot, bet a small exacta all over him. Justin exacta came back, $400 for $2, and I'm sitting here banging on the phone, can't get anything going because of the Wi-Fi.
Worst feeling in the world.
Well, it was terrible. Listen, I fully expected the horse to not win. He's 30-1. He did what I thought he would do. He got on the lead, and then he kept going, and then the field was closing in.
The funny thing is, you can't bet because of the Wi-Fi, but you can watch your pain. You can watch your pain play out on TV.
Yeah, all of a sudden he gets passed by the winner, and I go, oh well, good, no problem. Then he comes back. This horse comes back and gets beat at the wire. The two of them run to the wire, And I entertained the dining room for a while, but that was it.
Well, I
It
actually
was a good
lash
one.
on you because I called him a winner.
That is what it is.
Friday, speed favoring on the dirt. Pretty strong
Yep.
speed favoring bias. World record race 3. A horse I did like, again, shipping up from Churchill for Rodolphe Brisset.
Yeah.
Wired the field at like 5-1 or 6 to, no, I think 6-1.
6-1.
Adding blinkers, broke on top, was very strong from start to finish. Race 4, Stonewall Star really was best. That horse should have been on the lead. Got checked at the start. Then that put Tough Street on the lead, who wasn't supposed to be on the lead, and set a slow pace. The favorite, a Colt, was hurt by the slow pace and a speed bias. That's a favorite. Tough Street is a bet against next time out.
Right.
Whereas a Colt is,
He's
got
good.
compromised.
Yeah.
And so did Stonewall, who checked at the start and lost all chance.
Yeah.
Race 6, really big debut win for Accelerating from Asmussen. That horse was, totally. Yep, they paid a lot of money. 325,000 Timonium buy. Now I like to shop at the Timonium sale. That's a lot to pay for a New York bred. It really is. And this horse ran like an open company horse.
Oh my goodness.
It was, tremendous. Miss Welch, Miss Welch, Jeremiah Bullfrog Englehart, right?
Yep.
He had a horse live, Miss Welch.
Yep.
He was tipped around the track. Unfortunately, Miss Welch ran into that Asmussen first time starter. Dangerous next time out, I would say, right? Race 8, Surveillance, another Mike Maker winner for Flying P Stable, another one. Race 10, Rhetorical, that was an amazing debut. Remember the 2 turns on the top? That was a Windstar bred horse, right? And St. Elias, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
They were that was a $320,000 yearling purchase up here at the Saratoga sale in August as a yearling. That horse was good.
And that was a horse that took a ton of money. 2-1, I think.
2-1, but had forced out on the clubhouse turn, wide on the backstretch, just inhaled him turning for home, and won stakes bound, Tom.
Yep.
Saturday, the track changed.
Yes.
For me, stalkers and closers outside pads were best. Amazing how that happens. I called the water truck.
It's a lack of water truck, or it's just they throw those machines out there and start moving that dirt around, and who knows what the track's going to be.
Good day for Billy Mott. Wins 2 races on this day.
His birthday.
Yeah, right. When's his birthday?
29th.
Okay.
Right?
Does it 29th?
It was a dead day. So he's got to beat it. He beat it.
Yeah, he did.
You never know with Mott. So late.
So he did. He came up with 2. He always wins on his birthday or near his birthday.
That's right.
Race 4, Speakeasy, rated today after showing speed in its debut. Sat outside mid-pack. And that was the 3rd win last week for Sienna Farm and Windstar.
Yep.
Another one. Race 5, Game Warden.
Yeah.
Shipping up from Churchill. We talked
about that. That's another race watching.
Norm Cassie had 2 in that race at Churchill.
Right.
The favorite, who was even money, and this one.
Ridden by Ricardo Santana Jr.
The favorite. Right. Now he wins with the favorite. This horse is sitting outside and lolly-da, right? No real.
It was almost a source trip because he didn't do anything. Then he made a middle move.
Right.
And then he packed it.
Right. He comes back. Santana on 4-1. Outside post didn't matter. And we didn't have the guts to put him on top. We put him second because we got suckered into a lone speed horse who was, forget it.
That was a tough beat.
Right. Race 6, Nakatomi. That was a sharp win.
Yeah.
Improved speed to stay up close. There was a quick pace. Came outside and ran the horses down. I like that horse.
That's also part of the track change.
Right.
Because Skelly's fast.
But Skelly's problem first of all, overbet at even money, in
Yeah.
my opinion,
Yeah.
is the last 3 times, including this
Gate.
start, he had some gate issues.
Gate
He
issues.
broke slow, rushed up. He couldn't get away. And this was Wesley Ward's first winner.
Yeah. By the way, I think it's good to bring up the gate. I think it's important when you're looking at the past performances and looking at where horses are in the gate to look at how well they break or how poorly they break. Because, Michael, if a horse has a history of being bumped or bumping and so on and so forth, with the favorite sitting next to him and the favorite doesn't have that quickness to get out of the way early, it can have an impact on the race when you're looking at odds. I want to know who the good gate horses are.
I think it's very important that players who are serious about this game get used to watching the pan shot and then watching the head on closely.
Absolutely.
Because that'll put all that together.
Absolutely.
Race 7, Chad Brown had a nice first-time starter that got bet well throughout. Chanson McPatrick, a nice Irish named horse, right? Now, this horse was impressive. He looked more like a 3-year-old. When he came out on the track, I had my binoculars on him, and man, was this horse big. And he didn't look like a 2-year-old. He didn't like the kickback, so he dropped himself far back, and he circled the field. And you don't see 2-year-olds at the top of the stretch being behind maybe 7-8 lengths and mow them down like that.
But you made the point in discussion that Chad's horses have turbocharged afterburners.
They train that way. They train that way. Now, the next time the horse runs, he's going to be way over bet. And the quandary for handicappers is the pace was wicked early and melted down late.
Right.
So how good was that performance? I'd say it's good enough that if they stretch this horse out and the way he looked physically and the way he took money, he likely has ability.
Mm-hmm.
The Jim Dandy. We said fierceness is he got his needed rest. We still didn't know what to do with him, what version. 1 1/8. He drifted in the stretch. He sat a perfect trip. I mean, he stalked bad speed, took the lead, turning
early on.
It was a bad drift job in the stretch. Sierra Leone had every chance to win. I mean, ring bit or whatever they're talking about, bit, no bit, bet, lugging in. He didn't lug in. He rode the rail.
Yeah.
He had dead aim.
So the question was how was the rail?
I thought the rail was off, but still, I think he's clearly proven to be an underachiever, but 1.25 miles is a different ball game.
Sure.
And fierceness is going to face that added distance back on, 4 weeks rest. And he's questionable at the distance.
Well, and he's questionable based on what Rapoli has been on record saying, it is short rest, yada, yada, yada. They may pass.
And look, Mind Frame is beatable because we see that what happens with Mind Frame also drifts out late.
Yeah.
That cost him the win in the Haskell against Dornoch.
Yeah.
And Dornoch has made me a believer. I mean, he was on a dead rail at Monmouth in the Haskell and ran really game.
We don't know. We really don't know if Sierra Leone is game. He runs his race, but he's never been nose to nose with someone at the wire, other than, if you were going to say it at the Derby with the Japanese horse, Forever Young. Right. So we'll see.
Listen, he's going 1.25 miles. He's a finisher. If there's a pace meltdown, and then there's the question. They made the announcement a few days ago that McPeak is throwing Torpedo Anna, a filly, against the males in the Travers. What it'll guarantee is a huge crowd and huge interest in this race. One of the most anticipated Travers in many years.
Capped at 50. And my only question is, if they scheduling and carting 13 races for a Whitney Day, how many races will we have?
19. We'll start at 9 in the morning and we'll close it down at 9 at night.
How's that? No dinner. That's the
one day. There's racing at Saratoga from 9 to 9.
Nice.
It was 23 races. No. What that does.
I'm thinking of the 8. I'm thinking of the 7, 8 horse race day forever.
Right,
That way we'd have full races all the time.
I'd like
We'd be home before.
I'd like to see a day devoted to steeplechase horses, so we don't have to show up. Only maybe root them on. I don't mind them.
No,
I just can't pick them. I mean, they're just
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
so
Funny.
Sunday,
Yeah.
speed favoring track again, in my opinion. Not intense, but definitely favoring speed. Race 1, there was a 2-year-old. They went fast. They ran 6.5 furlongs in 1:20 and 1/5 seconds. That was like watching the last eighth of a mile was like watching water dripping.
That's right.
It was so slow. Race 4, David Donk, my friend, wins his first race of the meet. Actually runs
Fancy
1-2. Fancy Pants,
That's right.
Juliana. I think
had her on top.
Right, 7-2. Donk runs 1-2. Race 6, the tip of the meet so far. Opulent Restraint.
Stop. No one called me.
No one called me either. The board. You know who called you?
The board.
The board called you 3-5.
Yeah.
That was paid tremendous turf pedigree on both sides. Made a huge move turning for home and hung on the hung the last 16th of a mile.
Vicky would say she hung like a salami.
She hung like a salami is right. Race 7, Super Quest. That's now that will be it.
Go ahead.
That will be our guest in a week or two, depending on
The horse?
not the horse, the actual trainer who I actually interviewed this morning, Mark Cassidy.
Yeah.
7th win of the meet, hitting over 33%.
Yeah.
When I ran into him in the grandstand a couple Sundays ago to invite him to the show, he was with his wife Tina. He had 2 monitors in front of him in the grandstand.
Hey,
One at Woodbine, one at Ellis.
Wow.
He won both races and a race at Saratoga within 10 minutes. How's that?
I'm going to tell you how it is. I picked and bet our shot in that race.
Oh my God.
Who got a good trip and then a bad trip. And you watch the head on that race. Our shot is coming on the Luis Saez. He gets bumped a little bit or has to wait because of the 7 falling back. He gets through and just doesn't get there. He was well meant. John Terranova's excellent trainer.
Yeah.
That's a horse that's
I like that horse.
That's a
I
nice
like that horse.
Another tough beat, but if it wasn't for tough beats, it wouldn't be racing, right?
Yeah. I only going to want to mention race 8 because not only did the horse bust me out of everything, but I'm mentioning it Scaramanga because it's the first win of the meet for Michelle Giddings.
Yeah.
And I root for her. I'm a rooter for her. She was the trainer of Maple Leaf Mel, and she deserves all the good fortune. And I was happy to see her.
And I think it's good. It's great to see Sean Bridgmahan back in the winner's circle. I mean, he was a mainstay on the winter track for years. A friend of mine used to call him the Black Irishman.
Why is that? The Black
Irishman.
Okay. Well, the way he waved his whip after the wire was like he won the Kentucky.
Oh yeah, no, good for him. Good
so that's a recap of our 5 days of the meet.
Yeah.
So
well, that's going to bring us to the end of this segment. We hope you enjoyed it.
Our interview, Chantal.
Well, either it's you who's going to bring us to the break or me.
Who's going to go ahead. I just okay. So you must in for that.
We're going to break now, and when we come back, Chantal Sutherland will be in the winner's circle with Michael Kipnis. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome. Welcome back to the interview portion of our show, the Winner's Circle, where I honor the guests that I'd like to have on. And today we have Chantal Sutherland. Welcome to the show, Chantal.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So I've been watching races from the 60s, and I'd say that the 3 greatest female riders that I've seen, and these 3 can compete. Obviously, they've proven they can compete against the best male riders of their generation. So, and there's no particular order, okay? The 3 that I choose are you.
Thank you.
Julie Krone, obviously, and Rosie Napravnik. Those would be the 3 that I've seen that I would consider the 3 best.
well, I feel honored to be considered among them and by you as well.
And you know, just competing successfully against the best males in the game. But did Chantal Sutherland want to be a rider when you were a kid? I mean, like really young.
I definitely wanted to be a rider. I knew I was 12 or 13 because I had asked a jockey that came over to our house. My dad had a lot of jockey friends that would come and swim in our pool on weekends or during the week. And I remember asking a guy named Lloyd Duffy if girls could be jockeys and what did he think? And he said, you can be anything you want.
Were there women riders in Canada at that time?
I think around before my time was more like Francine Villeneuve. Um, there wasn't many, of course, but there still aren't
Right.
many now. Uh, but yeah, I don't quite remember. I wasn't into racing like I clearly, obviously, I am now, but I was just followed my dad, and I was more into show jumping back then.
That's what when I had Ramon Dominguez on last week, he was talking about. I don't know if he was jumping, if he was show jumping, but he wasn't. He didn't start out racing thoroughbreds. I don't exactly know if it was show or equestrian or something, but he said he learned a lot from doing that.
Yeah, so for anybody who wants to race horses or even be on horses, it's great to have a seat. And the seat meaning you learn how to use your legs, and then you also learn your balance. And I did show jumping, I did dressage. You can help also a horse get a better balance. It's great for the race horses. Right now I'm galloping for Todd Pletcher, so I work with some of the horses to get them in a nice balanced gallop or a jog. And yeah, it's great for racing too because you get out of their mouth, you're not in your hands. Sometimes when you have a jockey that just becomes a jockey and they don't really know how to use their legs, they kind of end up balancing with their hands more. For me, you can take the reins away from me. I can just balance with my legs. Um, Obviously, you need reins for steering in traffic and stuff like that. But I would say it gave me the ability to be very light-handed on a horse, and I think horses really appreciate it.
So were you raised in Toronto or
Yeah,
Manitoba in that Toronto, right?
yeah. Born in Winnipeg, Manitoba. My
Okay.
dad moved to just north of Toronto. He owned a Canadian Tire store, and he was a Canadian Tire dealer. And we had our own. He had a store, and that's what brought us to Toronto. And then he did really well, so he bought a farm. And my sister and I had show horses, and then he had race horses. He was an owner for standardbreds and thoroughbreds.
Okay.
And he loved the harness. He thought that the harness people were more, I guess there would be less pretentious. He thought horse racing was a bit, could be a little snobby, but that was just his opinion. He was more of like a down to earth kind of, not a flashy guy. And but he loved horses, but he's actually terrified of them.
Right.
And
Was he successful as a, harness
he had
trainer?
some good racehorses. He was a good owner. He paid his bills. People liked him. He had a couple nice winners. He wasn't huge. He wasn't a big owner. Just
Right.
your average guy.
So you also, I think I read you played field hockey. Now, is field hockey like lacrosse?
No.
What is field hockey?
I feel like I think comes from more of like a Indian type of sport, and it's large in Canada,
Right.
European, Great Britain, and it's like a smaller stick, rounded. It's more like hockey on turf or
Right.
grass, and it's a hard ball like a cricket ball.
Right.
And
Do you have a stick with a net?
no,
And there's
no, like more like a hockey stick, but it's really small.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's like hockey on grass.
Right. Okay. And you did that for a while, right? That was
Yeah,
like a sport as a kid.
Yeah, I played for my high school, I played for university, and then I played Junior World Cup.
Okay.
But when I got to university level, Junior World Cup, I didn't grow, and all the girls around me got really big. Like they were like 6 foot, 5'11". I was getting crushed.
So now you go to college and you choose psychology, right?
Right.
And what other, it was like a double
I
major.
double majored in psych and mass comm. And what was really interesting, in one of my psych classes, I was just like, what am I going to do with my life? My dad's going to kill me. I'm going to come out of college and I'm not going to know what I'm going to do. And so we were learning to teach people what they should do for their occupational sweet spot. So we were practicing with like, okay, I could be a psychologist, I could be a jockey.
At York University, right?
Yeah, yes. And a coach or physical therapy. And I put in all of them, and jockey was the one that hit sweet spot. Like, can I make money at it? Possibly. Do I love it? Am I passionate about it? Is it something I've always wanted to do? And a couple other things, and it hit. And I said,
What year was that?
that was 1999, 2000.
Okay, so now you're at York University. You
Yeah.
decide a jockey may be a sweet spot for you.
Yeah. So my dad, we had made a deal. He said, go to university, graduate. And when you graduate, then you can go to the track. So I remember going home and said, okay, I did it. I graduated. I'm going to the track. And he's like, no, you're not. And I just took off. I actually came to Florida to ride. I galloped for Tino Attard, and
That was a Canadian. Tino Attard is a Canadian guy. So you
Yeah.
probably knew of him or met him in Canada.
yeah, I met him in Canada. I galloped for him in Canada as well. And that's also kind of the time when I'm Angel Cordero, and he took me in and he taught me a lot of stuff.
That you couldn't be taught by one of the greatest of all time.
It's great.
But now I remember around 2000, Del Mar wanted to change their marketing strategy, and they wanted younger people. How they wanted a different demographic. And did they contact you to come to Del Mar to be like sort of?
Yeah, I was the face of Del Mar. I think it was 2012, 2013.
Oh, so it
later.
was much
It
later.
was more established. It was around the time of Game On Dude. I was dating Mike Smith at the time,
Right.
because that was that tricky time when I went away to do the marketing. And it was around Mike and I kind of were just about to break up.
So you're in Florida. It's 2000, right?
Right.
Right. And you're exercise rider for Tino Attard and some other, presume other trainers.
Yeah.
Right? Did you start your actual riding career there?
No, went back to Canada, and then my summers were Canada, and then my winters were Florida.
So you start at did you ride at Woodbine?
Started at Woodbine in 2001, and I started in October. I won 4 out of 20. I stopped because you can stop your bug
Right.
for the winter. I rode that winter to get more experience, came back that next summer after spending time with Angel Cordero, and I won 2 Sovereign Awards, and I still had time left the following year to continue my apprenticeship. So I did back-to-back Sovereign Awards.
Cordero was an agent. I don't remember when he retired. Right.
Angel's an agent then. Yeah, for Johnny.
For John, right? Okay, and then but he helped you.
Yeah, he helped a lot of people, but I remember going into his house with him and his wife at the time. She passed away, but he put me on the equicizer like he does with Jaime Torres, and so he plays video games, and he makes you hack away on that equicizer and makes you work very hard.
Is that horse that
yeah,
is
plays video games against him. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. So now when did you get your first mount? You're in the United States. Was it in Florida?
No, in the United States. Yeah, probably with Florida. I had Isaac Jimenez was my agent.
Okay. But I remember, so you rode at Aqueduct. Like
I did.
You rode a winter, was it 1 or 2 winters at Aqueduct? I remember you riding in Laurel too.
I rode in Laurel. I rode in Aqueduct because Richard Migliori said it'd be a really good idea for me to show people how tough I am, and I could, get through the winter. I know I'm tough. I definitely would not do that again. I would not show anyone how tough I am. I mean, maybe I would do Aqueduct again, but it's a tough winter. It was really cold. It was miserable.
They had the inner dirt track. They had the inner dirt track at the time.
Yeah.
It's off. That's where I spent many, many years at Aqueduct. In the winter, that wind off the Jamaica Bay is a freaking killer.
It's cold. Your hands are freezing. Anyone who rides there, I give them a lot of credit.
But you rode a really good horse named Smoke'em.
Yeah.
And in New York, I think. Was it trained by Alan Jerkins?
Yeah. I rode that horse in Belmont. We went,
The Tom Fool,
yeah,
I think.
won the Tom Fool Stakes. I was just after being an apprentice, and Alan took me in, and he was great. He helped me a lot. My barn was actually beside Todd Pletcher's, or sorry, I think Alan's barn was very close to Todd Pletcher's at the time because he was just big and coming up. He was like the new thing, and yeah, Smokin' was a really fast horse. He's a little crazy, but it was really.
What was it like being around the chief? Like, of all the trainers of my lifetime in the game, I consider him the best that I ever saw.
He was amazing because he really felt that he keep horses happy. He would pick dandelion root in one of the fields in Belmont, and he would get me to go with him. And he had a truck, and he'd park it, and he'd play Michael Bublé, Frank Sinatra, and he would put the shovel in the ground and he'd say, "You bend down and pick up the root." And I remember I was fresh out of Canada and pretty new, pretty green, and I had a bikini, and he's like, "You could put your shirt back on." And I'm like, "No, no, no, I need to get sun." He's like, "I think you're gonna get a sunburn." And I don't know if like people were around, and I was just this little kid, and he was just he was great. He was wonderful. He's like a dad.
I remember I was on the set doing all day on Capital OTB one year at Saratoga, and the weather's so changeable up here, and it's like 80 degrees, and I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt, and all of a sudden the front comes, and you can see rain is going to come and pour. It drops like 30 degrees in like 20 minutes. I'm freezing on the set. I went from being hot to being, just shivering. Alan Jerkins drives by in a golf cart, and he turns the golf cart to the TV set and he goes, "Wizard, you look uncomfortable." I said, "Yeah, I'm really freezing." He goes, "I'll be back in 2 minutes." He puts his golf cart in high gear, goes to his barn, and he comes back with this orange jacket. And he goes, "Put it on, Wizard." I put it on. It was like 5 sizes too big for me, but he wanted to make sure that I was warm. And I'm sitting
That's
with
nice.
this coat that's like, this huge jacket. He was just so kind. I remember him putting out spreads of food on a Sunday for the backstretch.
Yeah, he's a really kind person.
So we were talking the other day, and I actually printed this out.
Okay.
And it goes back. Okay, so now we 2008. Okay, Mind That Bird. You told me that story, and it was fantastic. So you're this guy Montpellier.
Yeah.
Rode him twice. Then you get on for 3 straight races, right? And you win. Yeah, 3 straight races. You win at Woodbine. You win the Silver Deputy, $100,000 stake. Then you win the Swinford for $155K. Then the horse goes in the Grey Cup, a grade 3, stretching out to 2 turns for the first time. You win that race. Okay. Then the final race of that horse's juvenile campaign is in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and runs dead last or something, runs awful. But then, so he's trained by David Cody,
Hmm.
and then given to Mandela, right, at that Santa Anita race. But now the horse is trained by Benny Woolley, right? In after that Breeders' Cup Juvenile, do they sell the horse privately?
So, from what my knowledge, and I could be wrong, could stand corrected, but Dave Cody sold him to Richard Mandela's people for 400,000. I know that was the sale price. I'm pretty sure that he got sold for because he was a gelding. And I remember Mr. Mandela said, "Do you like this Mind That Bird? What do you think of him?" I said, "I think he's really athletic. I think he's got a lot of talent. He can run on like not only dirt. I think he can run on, the Tapeta."
He hadn't run on dirt, right, prior to the the Breeders' Cup Juvenile was on synthetic that year.
Yeah.
So every race the horse had run on was a synthetic surface.
Right.
So Mandela gets the horse, and then
Then he thought the horse, he later we spoke because in the race, the horse always comes off the pace from what I've ridden him.
Right.
And he came in and he was really strong looking. He looked amazing. And he looked kind of like more like a sprinter. And all of a sudden I'm like laying second out of the gate going, whoa, like we're so close to the lead. And usually he comes off it. Like this is
In the
different
in the breeder
in the Breeders' Cup. And then in that first turn, Alex Solis is my inside. And I don't know why, but Alex wanted out of there. And when he did that, I was like, just wait, like just we're in the just in the first turn. Like, we got time, we get time. And then he bumped me. I don't know if he's having a hard time with his horse. I can't really recall exactly what happened, but when he did, I think he stepped on my horse, Mind That Bird, and we were done. We were just out of the race. And but I do remember seeing Richard Mandela later, and he said that he'd put speed into the horse because he thought he was lazy. But he could come across like that. He
right.
seemed lazy, but he just wanted to make that one late run.
So then after the Breeders' Cup, he comes back for his 3-year-old campaign at Sunland Park.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess
They
it's a
Richard sold him to the owners. They had an offer, and he said, "Yeah, sell him."
right.
And he said he regretted doing it.
He runs it. He runs in this race. I don't know, Borderland Derby, $100,000 stake at Sunland. Now, you following him? You're kind of. Did you know he reappeared? He resurfaced in New Mexico.
Yes, I talked to Mike Smith about it. I talked to a bunch of people. I followed him. Yeah, I was curious about him,
Right.
and then got more curious when he came back for the Derby.
So he is beating a neck in the Borderland Derby, goes to the Sunland Derby, runs a good fourth with a tough trip. Now these connections are pointing for the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah.
And what happens there? Like, because Casey Lambert was riding the horse in New Mexico, and you got a call.
Yeah. So my agent at the time was John Bell, and he was one of the top agents in Canada. We did so well together, and I adored him. He got a phone call from the owners, and I did too. I remember it was a Dr. Black, or there's a couple of doctors, and they said, would you be interested in riding Mind That Bird in the Kentucky Derby? And I said, yeah. And my agent said yes. And at the time, I was in a bunch of races Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the week previous to the Kentucky Derby. So I couldn't get out of those mounts to go and breeze Mind That Bird because these are big, huge days.
You're going for also the title, right?
Right. Patrick Husbands was, in front of me, but not by much, like 2 or 3. I mean, he does have Mark Cassidy in his pocket, so that makes him really tough and
Right.
strong, but I had some really good mounts. My agent and I had really set myself up to have a great weekend. So when they asked for me to breeze the horse, we said, well, he said she can't breeze it because she's got to stay in Canada, but we'll take the call and she will be there the day before to be.
When did they want to breeze that week, right?
They want to breeze on Saturday. So Saturday for Saturday.
Right.
Usually
Okay.
prep your horses, 7 days out, 6 days out, depending on how a trainer trains. And Calvin Borel just happened to get on him and he breezed him. And I'm sure I can, imagine the conversation was something like, well, she's never been in a Kentucky Derby and he's already won 2. He was coming with experience and they wiggled me off my mount. But I didn't know until I was actually in Kentucky. I flew to Kentucky and I was having breakfast with Mike Smith. And I got a phone call from my agent at the time, and he said they took you off Mind That Bird.
This was Friday when you arrived.
Yeah.
The day before, you're down in Louisville.
Yep.
Thinking you're going to ride Mind That Bird.
Yeah.
And then you get a call, we're taking you off.
Yeah. So I flew back to Canada, I think that evening, because I wanted to recover any horses I could get on Saturday. And I remember I rode Saturday and I was in the Jockstream with Emma Jane Wilson and we watched the Kentucky Derby together because we had no time to get home. We just, we were finishing racing. And I watched the race and I remember saying, oh my God, Mind That Bird's coming up the rail. He's going to win. I was like, oh my God. And Emma was like, holy, she said a couple other words and we were just like, oh my God.
Do you know what was amazing about that race? Because I'm looking at actually the running line of the race. Do you know how many lengths he was back?
A lot.
About when entering the clubhouse turn, he was actually 21 lengths back.
Well, with the first quarter, they went fast. In the first half, they went fast.
They went really fast.
Yeah, they went lightning.
Yeah.
Set up beautiful for him.
But he had never in his career closed from that far back. But with
not
that,
many have. Yeah.
no,
they get to half in.
they got the half in, well, it was 47-1 for 4 furlongs, 112 for 6, 137-2 for a mile, 137-2.
Yeah.
I mean, they were motoring up front.
Yeah.
But Borel, as he does
Yeah.
all the time, most of the time, just
Okay.
like Hernandez for McPeak, they love to get that rail. And if the hole opens, they're, they look like geniuses.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, right? And
Yeah.
that was a year that I happened to be down in the Kentucky Derby, because if I'm not mistaken, Sheikh Mohammed Al Maktoum had 2 horses in that race. Regal Ransom, I think, and another one. And that I was covering that race for Churchill Downs. So I remember that was the year I was down there.
Yeah.
And I remember this horse flying and 50-1.
Yeah.
Like, you must have been like, holy shit.
I was. I remember the week before I'd asked Mike, do you think I should go ride this horse, Mind That Bird? He's like, Chantal, your first Derby shouldn't be on Mind That Bird. Don't take a 50-1 shot. Don't embarrass yourself. Like, just come with the better one, with better odds. Just, pass. And then I remember Sandy Hawley was in the Jockstream, and I'm like, what do you
another Canadian, like, legend.
Amazing. And he said, Chantal, you got to be in it to win it, girl.
Right.
Go.
Right.
Get out of here.
Right. So, like, do you if you would have gone down there to work Mind That Bird that Saturday, you would have had the mount.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, I mean, like, I know you were in the heat of battle. I know you were going for the title, but did it ever cross your mind, like, shit, I got to go down there. I got to do it. I mean, this is a once in a life.
Yeah, I would now.
I mean, that's just, now you've ridden, I mean, I just pulled down the PPs of, like, Game On Dude, okay, for Bob Baffert. I would say that's the best horse. Well, I mean, you had Inglorious, another one that was top notch, but Game On Dude was some dude. I mean, that was an amazing. I would say it's probably the best horse you've ever,
I think so,
ridden. I mean, you're on the horse 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. You get beat a nose in the Hollywood Gold Cup when they were run on synthetic. That was in 2011.
On First Dude, right?
Well, First Dude won the race.
Yeah.
You were on Game On Dude, and you lose by a nose, right? Now, if I'm not mistaken, if I can go back into my memory bank, there was this incident at the top of the stretch in that race, right?
The San Anita handicap.
Oh, that was okay. That was the
San Anita handicap. I don't think I ever rode for John.
There was what was the race that there was an incident at the top of the stretch, and it was like a 10-minute
there was it was at Santa Anita.
Okay.
And it was the handicap. It was the first time I rode him.
Okay.
It was 50-1.
Oh yeah, the Santa Anita handicap.
I had
right.
the pick 6, and I
Right.
totally messed up the pick 6 for everybody. And there was some bumping, so I came off the turn, and I might have come out of touch, but I think it was Martin Bedroza and Victor Espinoza, and I think they kind of tightened it up on the outside, so the horse in the middle touched my flank, so my horse's hind end. So like anything, when you touch the hind end, my front turned in, so it looks like I did all the damage, but it's because that one horse touched me first,
Right.
so it caused me to turn in, and then I kept riding and went forward, and he did it again, and then I kept going, so it caused me to kind of go in, but they had initial contact. Without them touching me, I stay straight and we're good. So they had to really look at it and dissect it. And
so you gave the stewards talked to you. You gave your version of it.
Yeah, you get on the phone with the cord,
Right.
and talk to the stewards. And yeah, I mean, everyone says their pitch. I said mine, and they looked at it, and like we looked at it for a while. And I remember I was like, I just got here in California. This is crazy. I'm riding for Bob Baffert. Like, please God, like I just want to stay up.
What was your gut feeling? Like,
I knew I was okay, but I knew it was like it looked. You really had to know what you're looking at to make the correct decision.
Right.
And so, yeah, it worked out for me, but I remember the fans the first time I went in the winner's circle, and everyone booed.
So you win that race.
Yeah.
You win that race, and at almost 15 to 1. You were 1480 to 1 in that race. So you pays $30,
Yeah.
and you score in that race. Then you ride the horse back in the Hollywood Gold Cup, a grade 1. You get beat a nose to first due, and you beat Twirling Candy, outfinished Twirling Candy. Twirling Candy becomes a terrific sire,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But then you run fourth in the Pacific Classic,
Hmm.
and then comes then you ride the horse at Del Mar. Actually, prior to the Breeders' Cup Classic in this Goodwood grade 1. Then you go to the Breeders' Cup Classic, and you're again 14 to 1, and you're sitting on this horse on the lead, right? How do I mean, there's the Kentucky Derby and the Triple Crown races, but the Kentucky Derby and the Breeders' Cup Classic,
Yeah.
the next best race.
For sure.
And
It was
you
crazy.
you have this horse in a nice stride on the lead.
Yeah.
And what happens in the stretch?
God, it all was working out so beautifully. And Billy Mott with Drosselmeyer, they ifed into the race. They were supposed to be in the marathon race
Right.
anyway, and just so happened Mike Smith was riding. And I, put away everyone in the race. Game On Dude ran an outstanding race. And then I memorized all the silks, and I said, I think we got everybody. And it was dark because, it's getting dark at Churchill. That stretch is crazy long. And I
Right.
remember seeing the light. I'm like, we're almost there. We're almost there. And then at the side of my corner of my eye, I see white silks. And I'm like, no, that's Mike's silks. Like
He was on
I think that's
Drosselmeyer.
Windstar, right? Is it
Yeah,
Windstar?
yeah.
Ah, that's Star.
The white and the star, right?
Yeah, I
And
saw it.
so you think turning for home, you've got you got horse.
Yeah, I
Hit the mid
but he's
stretch.
starting, we're getting close to the wire, and he's like, he thinks it's over. Like we put away, like he's fought with everybody. So you think on the inside from Europe, he's fought with Johnny V's horse. I can't remember the name. And we were just like, he fought everyone off. And then we were just alone for a little too long.
Are you saying something to him?
I'm like screaming.
Give me the actually act it out. You're riding the horse, right?
Like,
You hit the 8th pole.
like,
You
scream.
scream.
And then I'm like, we're good. And then when I see Mike, then I go nuts. Like everything. God, everything you do. Just, yeah.
And he gets you, and he wins by he wins the race by a length and a half. He actually edges
Yeah,
clear.
legit, yeah.
Yeah,
He
no,
was
legit.
way wide. My horse
Wasn't he
couldn't
like
see
50 to some ridiculous price?
him. Mike?
No, yeah, Drosselmeyer.
Yeah.
It was, I don't even remember what he paid. It was like ridiculous price.
Yeah, and then I remember after that we went up. It took me a while to get up to the room because I had a lot of people were interested in Game On Dude. They had a lot of fans, so I signed a lot of autographs. And then I remember going to the jocks room, and Mike Smith came up to me and he said, "My mom's really mad at me because I didn't let you win." And I was like, he's like, he has so many Breeders' Cups, like he's got like 13 or 15 of them, but it was all good. My horse ran amazing, and Game On Dude is a gelding. But it was awesome. It would have been amazing to win it. I wish Game On Dude could have bred more horses and been a stud, but he's happy at Old Friends Farm.
Right.
And I did see him. He's got a little buddy out there, and he's a very sweet horse. Like
Right.
he was very kind, sweet.
Well, you got redemption in obviously in a much lesser race, but in the San Antonio, like the next start, you won by 3 lengths.
Yeah, and then
And that was a grade 2 race
yeah.
that you won easily. I mean, I remember like you were the queen of the long shots. Like you rode so many price winners. I mean,
Yeah.
I just remember that.
Mhm.
So the next year you get to travel and you go to Dubai
Yeah, that was
with
amazing.
this horse.
Yeah.
And what was that like? What is Dubai riding in the World Cup like?
It was cool because I remember Bob said that I was the first to ride in the World Cup.
Your first woman.
First woman. So he's like, if there are any death threats, you're not coming. And I'm like, oh my God, please, no death threats. Like, I don't know how it was going to play out because a while ago things were a little different. Dubai is very open now. And I went over. They were super nice to us, to all of us. Bob, I got off the plane. I got a phone call that Bob had had a heart attack. I was like, oh my God, how is Jill doing?
He
And
got
then
heart attack
on the plane,
on
I guess started on the plane. Then we got to the hotel. It started happening, and then they took him to the hospital.
in Dubai.
Yeah, we went and saw him in the hospital. He did make the race. I remember I had to get on Game On Dude and the Factor one morning because maybe one of our riders at the time had gone MIA. So, but it ended up all working out, and unfortunately, Game On Dude was loaded last, and for some reason, somebody went to break out of the gate, so it shook the gate, and he got ticklish from it, and he sat down, and so I missed the break.
Do you know it was the first time in Game On Dude's history, ran 34 times. He won 16 races, placed 7 times. It was the first time in his whole career that he raced without Lasix.
Oh wow. Huh.
He had always run. And that happened some, you said he sat down, he was not the same, he didn't feel the same, right?
Well, he was okay. It was very hot. I remember it was extremely hot. But when you're loaded last and I was 13 on the outside, you're in the turn right away. Like you don't have time, like it's so hard to get over.
Right.
And I remember I got through and I did get to the front at some point, but he didn't have anything left in the stretch. But it was a rough trip. I was way wide. My post was terrible.
Right.
And just sitting down, missing the break, I spotted them 5-6 lengths before I even got in the race, and it wasn't our day.
Did you get to spend a couple days in Dubai?
Yeah.
Like just travel, like kind of seeing what it's all about?
Yeah. Outside of the racetrack, there's a couple of places that are kind of fun, but we went to the water park. That was a little different.
What was their
Well, like I'm in a bikini, and then they have burqa water bikini outfits. Like the women are in burqas in the pool.
Their faces are covered.
Some of their faces are open, but they're wearing the whole thing
in the pool.
Yeah. So I just felt like a little exposed. So I kind of went back in my little gazebo and I stayed there. But it was interesting. Dubai is beautiful. It's so much more built up now than when I was there. But it was interesting, cool.
You ride a lot of horses for Bob?
I did at the time. I wasn't like his main rider, but I did breeze a lot for him. I learned a lot from him. I think he's a very particular, meticulous, perfectionist type trainer. He's very involved. He's there like every day that I was there. He was watching everything. He has a great setup to his assistant Jimmy. His whole
Jimmy
outfit,
Barnes.
great exercise riders. Everything's clean and perfect, and he's an amazing trainer, and he's a nice person. I know, a lot of trainers go through ups and downs, and I'm happy what's happened to him recently.
That he got reinstated, which I thought was my personal opinion, it was a little too much. Like I think, but he's back.
Yeah, everyone pays their penalty. He paid his price.
Right.
He did his time. I think that we all make mistakes, and whether or not he did or didn't, I'm not here to judge. I'm just saying my experience with Bob and Jill and his family has been nothing less than amazing.
Well, I know him a long time. I know him personally. I talk to him a lot. And there's no doubt he's one of the greatest trainers of all time.
He's very talented.
Look at his accomplishments. Yeah. But the one thing that I know that I saw firsthand is it was one year at the sales here at Saratoga. And I was standing with him in the ring. He was going to bid on this horse. And he says, Wiz, I'm going to buy this horse. And I said, well, how much are you going to spend? He said, up to maybe $400,000, $500,000. So I said, well, it's a lot to pay. That was years ago. I don't remember the year, but it was a lot back then. And he goes, look at this horse as he's passing by. He goes, now this is a baby. This is
A yearling or a 2-year-old?
No, it was a yearling.
Okay.
Okay, it was the yearling sale, the premier sale here. He goes, I'm going to win the Breeders' Cup with this horse, the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and I'm going to win it as a 3-year-old. And I said, come on. I mean, he goes, I'm winning with this horse, the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And the horse was Midnight Loot
No way.
that he pointed out to me. He had an eye for, he can really tell at a very young stage athletes. And then the way he works his horses is it tell against each other. He has just that mind of being able to pick of the lid, like he can kind of the pecking order of his 2-year-olds and how he develops them are it's amazing. I mean, it's really great that you got to ride such a great horse like Game On Dude. You also rode, I mean, you won about 1,500 races, which
Almost, yeah.
yeah, but I mean
Close.
that's crazy. I mean, in different locations, different levels. Woodbine's no joke. Like that's quality racing. I mean, you got some top horsemen there. I mean, you're competing against some great jockeys there too. I mean, that's a. I mean, what is like? I always wondered what is Woodbine like compared to the Canadian racing compared to racing in the United States. How they run racing there.
It's different for sure. Woodbine is our main biggest track that we have, but we don't have the volume or the horses or the amount of trainers and owners that the US has. And so for the jockey colony, it's not as competitive. But when you get to the top 5, you're getting really talented riders. But then it thins out throughout. Here you have so many jockeys, and to even get to the Breeders' Cup, to get to the Kentucky Derby, to be a rider in Saratoga, like it's like you're in the NHL, like you've made it, like you've accomplished a lot to be where you are. Like Flavien Prat, what he's doing right now is exceptional. And Irad and Jose, I mean, they're doing some amazing things. But then we had the Garrett Gomez's, and we had Mike Smith, and we had Kenta Stormo, and that was kind of their era was before me. I was the young one coming in, and now we have I have that middle generation, and then now it's IRAD, and then it's going to keep doing its thing.
Every generation has its top
ride. Day was before Mike, and then
Willie Shoemaker,
yeah,
Cordero.
Yeah,
I mean, they all.
I only rode once with Gary Stevens, maybe like a handful of times. I was just new. I was just a baby then, and then I got to ride with some really cool riders, and I haven't actually ridden much with Jose and IRAD, maybe 2 winners. But yeah, I mean, to get here, to even race here, and then to win, and to it's pretty competitive in the U.S. Not to take anything away from Woodbine. Woodbine has some great riders. There's been some great trainers that come in there. Roger Adfield, he's the Hall of Fame. Look at Mark Cassey, he's killing it here right now. It's nothing like it's good racing too. I just think that just America, United States is so big. There's so much more volume, so much more. Josie Carroll from Canada. There's a ton of good trainers from there.
I ran into Mark Cassey, in the grandstand with his wife on Sunday, and he was watching. So Saratoga, he had a horse in Kentucky at Churchill, right?
Yeah.
5 minutes early, won.
Yeah.
Then he has a horse at Saratoga, like 2 minutes later, right?
Yeah.
He's watching the replay, run second, and he's like, tough trip. Like then he switches TVs to Woodbine, and he wins the race in like 7 minutes. I'm with him. He's got 3 horses in 3 different locations running. And so, and I talked to him, and he said, Wiz, I got the Queen's Plate, the top 3 favorites in the Queen's Plate. So if you want to do an interview with me, it's got to be next week, because then I got the sales, and then I got to go to the Queen's Plate.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's like a CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
He's done really well, and he's I mean, I guess now it's the King's Plate, and he's going to be trying to win it again. Didn't he win it last year with Patrick?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they've done really well, and I think his wife is beautiful, and she's been very supportive of him, and I think that he's done better having her in his life. I mean, he's always good, but he's really she seems to be always there
all the time.
Yeah, and I think Jill is like that for Bob,
right.
And it looks like Todd has his wife They always say behind every good man is a
Yeah,
great woman.
right.
Yeah, so it's cool to see. I think that's nice to see a family affair, and yeah, Mark's done great.
At Woodbine, are they tougher on trainers that are caught, with drug positives, or like, or are they, it seems like they're really on top of the cleaning the game there. They, for years, I don't know how,
I think Heisa is very strict here. I think,
not now, but
yeah,
prior to Heisa. I mean, yeah, but I would think that Woodbine, I always liked playing Woodbine because it seemed like everything was on more of a level playing field.
it's just different. Like if you look at Japanese racing and look at how the stewards give you the minutes of every meeting of everything that goes on. It's very transparent. And also Woodbine does that too. So anything that happens, if anyone gets a ticket, if anyone gets a hearing, or if I'm in the room and something happens with me and an altercation with a jockey, it's all in the minutes, where we don't have that here. I don't know why. It's just a different sort of setup, and every state has different stuff. But I think Heis is trying to, uniform it.
Right.
I don't know. It's pretty strict here. It's strict in Canada, but it's very strict here too.
It should be more very transparent. The fans want it. It's the right thing to do. And if they do that in Canada, that's, they should take, I'm at Naira, they should take that lesson out of the book and do that, because they don't do that. They don't, they show you the video replay and that's it, They don't do a great job, in my opinion, with that. So you rode, so you went to California and you met Mike Smith, who I got to know here for one summer. We would exercise together at the gym on the elliptical. He'd have his racing form. I'd have my racing form. We would talk about the races while we're doing our elliptical. And I got friendly with him, and I really loved the guy. I mean, I really think he's just kind. He was, he just, he has that face, that demeanor, and it's real. It's real. I remember I was doing the show at Capital OTB, and I had a wireless mic, and I would go to the rail, and right before the race, some riders would come over and ask me, "Hey, Wiz, how's the track playing?" Well, Mike did that in the test stakes, and he had a horse, and he said, "Wiz, what's the track playing? What do you think? Should I take back? Is there a lot of speed?" And I think there's a lot of speed. What do you think? And he's chatting, right? Like there's like a minute to go to the test stakes, a grade one, right?
Yeah.
And he's talking to me, and he just seemed like a great. What you saw is what you get. There was no. Am I right?
Yeah. No, Mike is a fantastic person. He is a brilliant rider, as you know, and he definitely took me to the next level as far as teaching me and taking the time to get me to be a great athlete. And
What do you
but
do? How did he teach you?
he got me in the gym working out really hard, and then he also would just replay races, watch my races, go over them with me. We spent a lot of time with Gary Stevens, and we had a crowd of friends. Alex Solis, that's kind of when we did jockeys. And he, even before then, he helped me a lot. Just like everything. He told me so many tricks that he would do, stuff that he knew, how he'd ride a race, how you see things in a race. And he was great. And I obviously, fell in love with him very much. And I think we both loved each other a lot. Um, and it worked out for a while, like 6, 7 years. And it was great. He was wonderful. And then, you know, it didn't work out after, which is fine. Everything has a season. And I think he's happily married now. And I'm really happy for him.
It sounds like those years in California were some of your best years, like fun years and just enjoyable.
Yeah, California was great. We actually lived in Michael Dubbs, one of his places that he had built. Our neighbor was Paul LaDuca. Mike and I lived in a townhouse, beautiful place, and I know Paulie had a place with his wife at the time. We were hanging out with David Wright, all the players for the Mets back then, and yeah, we had really, really. New York was amazing, and then we both moved to California.
What was it like? Because at that time, I mean, he was riding one of my favorite horses of all time. I mean,
Zenyatta.
Zenyatta.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I have a picture of Zenyatta with him. He signed the picture. I've beautifully framed in my house. You know, I'd say Zenyatta and Ruffian were the two of my favorites, right? You got to be around Zenyatta. You were there when he was riding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was that like? Like
It was an amazing time because Rachel Alexander was riding
for Steve
Steve
Asmussen.
Asmussen, and she was killing it. And then Calvin again was riding her, right? Rachel for a
Yeah.
little while.
Yep.
Then Mike was doing so well with Zenyatta. It was just taking on a life of its own.
Was he
Dancing with the
on
Stars.
Zenyatta from like,
No.
it wasn't from the beginning.
No, David Flores was on Zenyatta, and Zenyatta won her first start. And Mike was, I remember we were in he had a black Escalade, and we were driving the track, and he's like, damn it, he had gone out of town or something, or he'd ridden another horse instead of Zenyatta first time out, but he had breezed her and he loved her, but he knew John was going to give it back to him. And once she had won, he didn't know if he'd get her back off David. And then David had to go out of town for another horse, and Mike got Zenyatta back.
And that was like how many races into her career?
Sure. Like, I think David rode her like twice, maybe. You'd have to check, but
She
I know
ran. So Mike was on her a lot.
after that, no one ever got on after that.
Now, I would sit, you know, with my wife, and I would say, watch her in the paddock, right? And I asked you that the other night, that she used to just, you said it was more nervousness at the beginning,
Yeah.
and she used to stick out her leg. She loved a crowd.
Yeah, I think so Mike, from what I understood from Mike said, she was, at the beginning, it was nervous, and it was kind of a nervous thing, and Mike didn't want to make her stop. He didn't want to upset her, and he wanted her to like kind of, you know, just be herself. But then when she would do it and the crowd would get really excited about it, she kind of would stop and look at them and be like, oh, they like it. And she was very smart. So she would do it again, and the crowd would be like, oh. And then she started doing it again, and she was getting this, you know, positive reinforcement, and Mike just let her do it. And then it just turned into this Dancing with the Stars thing. And she was on that show, they had her, and she just was a crowd pleaser, and she just was hamming up the crowd all the time, and she just loved the attention, and she was very big. She was outstanding in size. She
A
was,
monster,
yeah,
right? I mean,
just so gorgeous in her head, and Mike and her were just, they got along
did
so
you
well.
ride against
I
her?
did. I rode Pretty Unusual in Santa Anita for Barry Abrams, and I got to the lead, and I was at the quarter pole. I'm like, I don't know where she is, but I know she's coming somewhere. So I looked to my left on the rail, and I'm like, she won't have room to get up there. And I looked to my right, and by the time I looked back, she'd already passed me on the rail and was gone.
She was on, so you didn't see her on the rail, and then she
so
got
fast. And like, how did she get through there? It wasn't that much room. And you didn't feel her. You just felt like the wind after she had gone. And she opened up and won.
I couldn't believe her Breeders' Cup Classic win, and even her defeat.
Yeah.
Lame, and she lost by a nose. But I couldn't believe like how far back she was, and then she never. If you didn't know it was Zenyatta, you would say, "There's no way." I mean, there's no way.
Yeah.
But this could be 12 horses in the race, and you're only looking at Zenyatta.
Yeah.
You know, because you know she's coming. And the how Mike would be able to, when she picked up a head of steam, how he would navigate her, because she was huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, but yet she was fluid, like she was a real athlete. You could, you know, she was versatile, she moved, you know, and it was like being on a freaking Rolls Royce. I mean, it was amazing. And then did you see that 60 Minutes interview
with Mike?
No, with John Sheriff's and Zenyatta. It was a Zenyatta 60-minute. You Google 60 Minutes.
Okay.
Zenyatta. Every day, John Sheriff's would put out a bucket of beer. Like she loved this Guinness or beer. She, you know, and some oats in it, right?
Yeah.
And it was just this great story on the relationship between John Sheriff's and Zenyatta. of course, Mike Smith played such a large role, but that was an amazing time.
It was.
You know, you rode a match race against him, right? It was like, I don't remember what they called it.
It's Battle of the X's.
Battle of the X's.
Yeah.
And what
Great idea.
yeah, great idea. What was that? Where was that?
I was in California at Del Mar.
And it was like an actual betting race.
Yeah. And they had the draw for it. And then I didn't like my horse particularly, but everyone had like buttons, Team Chantal, Team Mike, and it was really a fun day. Like it was great. The whole lead up to the race was great.
So what happened? I didn't remember the race.
I had no horse. Like I was just chasing Mike the whole way around. He broke. His horse took the lead. I couldn't even get the lead. I just chased him. My horse, I think I was done at the 8th pole.
And
like he just opened up. Like it was not. They weren't. You know.
Were they on paper? Were they evenly?
No, I mean, I don't think so. But I think the racing secretary at the time would probably disagree with me. But I would never have picked. Looking back, I would have said, Mike, if you're so good, why don't we trade horses? I
Right,
should have,
right.
because I knew his horse was way better.
Like a late jockey change
Yeah.
on Mind That Bird. We're going to do a late jockey change
Yeah.
on the Battle of the X's, right?
Yeah.
So now you're 2014, 2015. What are you doing?
I took a break from racing to be married, to maybe try and have a kid.
Right.
And that, it's not for everybody, and it's not easy not everybody gets pregnant naturally and can have a kid. It didn't work out for me, and
Did you leave racing completely?
I did, yeah, for like 5-6 years.
What did you do like during that time?
I did real estate and was just
Right. No, forget
a
it.
trophy wife or something. I don't know. I like went shopping. I did not like exercised, like not much. Like I didn't do much.
That's like a complete departure, like a 360.
Yeah.
Like I'm hearing Chantal Sutherland is like it's like,
yeah.
how did you do that? Like you gave up your identity.
Yeah, it was you think, like I thought I was gonna be a mom, so I thought that was gonna be my next role. And when it didn't kind of work out, then you're kind of lost. Like, what am I gonna do? What's my purpose? Real estate was okay. I wouldn't say that I would say that I love it. I love interior design. I love houses and stuff like that. But working with people and, it's okay, some people, but some people are different.
Right.
And there's some crazy stuff that happens, and it's a huge purchase. So it's a lot of emotion. But my life is racing. Like I love racing. I feel I can't get too far away from a track because I think I start to get hives or I start to itch or something. I love Saratoga. I love all my favorite racetracks. I just love the people in racing. I love horses. So yeah, I know now that it's got to be, not very far separation for me and horses. I think it wasn't good for me to be too far away for that long. I wasn't that happy.
So you come back,
Yeah.
right? You got divorced, right? And then you come back, you start to regain your identity, you go back to the game you love and you start riding again, right? Where were you? You were a jockey agent for 2 riders, right? At some
Yeah. So when I first came back after the divorce, I went to Louisiana and I got hurt. And then I had a good season. Then I got hurt. Then I got better. And then COVID hit. And then I couldn't really ride in Florida because you had to tell them you were going to ride there. And I didn't know where I was going to ride, if I was going to ride in Turfway in Kentucky or Florida. And then after I was able to ride in Florida, that's when I stayed there and I did really well. I bought a condo there and I thought, this is it. I'm going to stay in Florida. I'm not going to travel anymore because it's hard traveling all the time. And I got hurt. So it's been a year and now I'm making my comeback now. Like I'm breezing and galloping and seeing where I'm at physically and if this is what I want to do. But in the time that I was getting fit in Florida, I took on 2 jockeys, an apprentice and another jockey. And unfortunately, my apprentice got stolen from another agent and it just didn't work out.
Right.
But I do like it. I do like being an agent. I think it's very something that I will want to do. I love being social. I know the condition book. I know racing. I can see talent. You would definitely need to have the right product. I'm a hustler and I love people. I know a lot of people. So that is definitely something that I do want to do
But
in the
that's
future.
plan B.
That's plan B.
Plan B. But
Plan,
plan A is to come back riding. Now, you got to explain this to me. I remember the race at Gulfstream. It was a stakes race, if I'm not mistaken. And I watched the gallop. I always watch the gallop out. And I see you take a fall after the wire, right? And then I'm saying, after what the hell happened here? And then so I'm like on the internet researching, and I read there's a flock of geese.
they weren't geese. Everyone says geese. They were
What-
swans.
Swan, okay, that lived in the water in the on the infield,
Yeah.
right? But there was a trainer, right, that would feed. Like how the horse got spooked, right,
Right.
from the swans that were walking across the turf course.
Yeah. So I guess, from what I've learned is that, it was a later race. So trainers feed the horses in the morning, they feed them in the afternoon, they feed them at night. And it was in the evening, it was an added stake race to the card. And a lot of trainers, sometimes they'll throw out, feed that the horses haven't eaten, and then they'll refresh their feed tub. And it just so happens that some of the trainers in the tents across from the track, everyone does it. They just throw out the old feed and they, freshen up their feed. Whether it was that or someone was particularly feeding them or what they were doing, but the birds had learned that they could come from the pond at feed time at night, feed time in the morning, and feed time in the afternoon and get food. So, like anything that wants to survive, they're going to get a routine, and that was kind of their routine. It just so happened I hadn't ridden the grass and on an added late race, so it was just unlucky and super unfortunate that we have swans in a racing type atmosphere. I mean, you can't have them at Formula One, you can't have them at the airport. Even subway systems have laser beams, so you can't have birds as a nuisance because they can cause a problem. And swans aren't small; they're 30 pounds, they're 5 feet tall. I know everything about swans.
Did you see them? Like, did you see what? Of
They
course,
attacked
right?
my horse, yeah.
Did Gulfstream Park know that this, this? I mean, this is a problem. I mean, it just the timing. But I mean, Gulfstream should have been aware of this. It's life threatening. I mean, here you take a fall, and you have this horrible injury. So maybe it was the first. I'm not sure it would be the first. Is it the first incident of this type that you were able to? Did anyone tell you we've seen this before?
I think you'd have to ask everyone at the track. I think everyone knows the answer to that,
Right.
but yeah.
So you hurt yourself. This is in 2023, right?
Yeah, so it was the first Saturday in May, Derby Day, 14 months, May 6th well, not we've already had
Right.
this Derby, so yeah, 2023. And I know my emergency contact was at the Derby and they got the phone call that Chantal's in the hospital and he was just like, oh my God. And then, yeah, so I'll never forget. I've always wanted to be in the Derby. I just want to be going down Derby Day. I just trying to get in the Derby. But yeah, it was probably, I mean, I've been injured, broken my leg, my knee, my shoulder, but I've never broken my arm like this where it was not attached to the shoulder. And then for them to have to reattach it, and just the nerve damage and then, the surgery alone was just unbelievable pain. But
You're
yeah,
on horses now. You're getting
yeah,
back. I mean,
getting-
it's probably slower than you've want,
this
obviously.
is the slowest I've ever had to come back from an injury, but at least I'm here and I made it and I can use my arm and I actually can gallop again because I didn't even know if I could, gallop, how I was going to look breezing. I know I have a lot more work to do. I did breeze out of the gate with IRAD the other day and my right arm is really perfect. My left arm is still not 100%. And I got to get it to where it's 100%, where I'm super confident in that because I don't want to ride for people knowing that I'm not 1,000% because it's
Right.
not fair and it would be a lack of integrity for me.
Right.
And also, I don't want to cheat myself because when I go up against these guys and women riders who are there fit and they prepared, like
You want to
I
compete.
want
I
to,
mean, you want
I
to
want
beat
to
them.
kick their ass.
Haven't
So
lost the
I don't
competitive
want to,
fire.
yeah, I don't want to cheat myself either, and I don't want to make a fool of myself. So if you do see me back, know that I'm ready. But right now, I'm not there.
But you working in the morning for Todd.
He's been amazing. He's so nice. He runs his outfit really well. His assistant trainer, Tristan Berry, is fantastic. Even Stu's great. The foremans are great. Everyone's easy to talk to. They're nice. Everyone does their job. Everyone has their role. Everyone has exactly what they're supposed to do. It's very run meticulously, and it's comfortable, and it's there's an intensity, but it's not like there's pressure. Like it's like you want to do your job well and you want to make Todd happy. But I don't think he's ever gotten upset. Like I've never seen him ruffle a feather. He's very consistent, and I like that in a person. I like when their personality is consistent. There's no ups and downs. It's not like I'm wondering what they're doing. It's stable. So it's a very stable environment for me. And growing up with a dad who's maybe not as stable and he can fly off the handle here and there, I kind of like that calmness of it. So it's great. And yeah, he's got beautiful horses, and I love breezing, and he's got me breezing a lot of horses, and it's exactly where I think I need to be right now.
I think like guys like him, trainer like Chad Brown, trainer like Mark Cassie, they're just, it's amazing what they do. They're different. They're all different.
Yeah,
They have a different style, but it's to manage that many horses.
their business models are similar, the way that they do things, but each one has a unique uh, signature thing that they do. I know I see now Chad's because I worked for Chad, and his is very good. Uh,
How's it different than Todd's?
Um, just the way that he has his riders ride his horses in the mornings, little different. He's got his own thing, and in the way that he particularly likes them to gallop and breeze is similar, but there's a little different. Um,
Could I guess a little, because just of my observation,
sure.
I never see if a Todd Pletcher horse has speed. Let's talk about like the 2-year-olds and returnees. Okay, it could be an older returnee, right? But 2-year-olds. If a Todd Pletcher horse has speed, you see it. It's out of the gate. It's fast. You know, Chad is a little different. All his turf, well, he has a lot of turf horses, Chad, but they always are coming from behind. They always relax early and they finish
Mm.
and they accelerate when the rider asks them for, because a turf horse only has maybe a 3/16 of a mile run. It doesn't have, it's a little different than riding the dirt, right?
Yeah.
But you see the Chad Brown horses, especially 2-year-olds. I've seen him up here. He's won a couple first-time starter 2-year-olds on the turf going long. First of all, just to get a horse to win going long, first time out, is a skill set
Yeah.
that Chad could do. Todd doesn't have those types of horses as much as Chad does, but is it a different style?
Yeah, they have a different style for sure. Bob has a little bit different style, similar more to Todd, and then Chad has his own different style. It's a little bit, and it's more like I don't know about the racing so much part of it, but know that Chad Brown's horses, they're fit when they get to the races because it's the way that he's aggressive in the morning. That being said, you have to be careful too, when you are getting horses to train hard. With training hard comes injuries too. So I think how he's managed all of that, Chad, and he does it well, and it's working for him. He just has his system that works for him. I would think his would be what I've noticed is a little more aggressive, and then Todd happens. He does more of his stuff, performance in the breezes. he's not so maybe demanding with the horses in the mornings. I mean, obviously they train. I don't want to, say the wrong thing, but it's not as like intense. Like they're like pulling. Like they can kind of some of those horses can relax, and they all have their different little style. They're more, each one's unique. But again, they, from the outsider looking in, they always breeze in company,
Right.
and that gets horses racy, and it gets them like, because in a race they got to be prepared for that. And I would say sometimes I see Todd will, breeze a horse solo more than Chad, but I haven't really ridden for Chad that long, only like a month. And then Bob Baffert, he works in company like that, but he likes them really on the bridle too. And then he likes the gallop out, but a good gallop out, but then not too much. And I actually, as a rider, took on Bob's style for breezing horses. So I breeze for other trainers, and I know what gets me to win, and I know what can get me to win by that much. And it really, that gallop out and that last little from the eighth pole to the wire and just a little bit past, that's a really important part of the breeze. Every stage of the breeze is important, but that for me is a key, will determine if my horse is ready and if I can win off that. And you just kind of figure all these different trainers out. And I love riding for all different trainers, because you see what each one does. Like Doug O'Neill, he'll get you to break off like at the quarter pole and gallop and finish your breeze at the 5/8 pole. Like he does totally different stuff. And Alan Jerkins, he does quirky stuff, when he trained, and just all of it is really amazing. But when you get to these top 5 or top 3, like their business thing, like they have 150 to 300 horses, and how you have the assistant trainers, the foremen, the gallop people, like everyone has their role, and there's no denying what your role is. And everyone's got there's like one guy at Todd's barn, I think his name is Roja, and he just fixes stuff, like fixes fans, fix lights, like he's just like, there's just so much to do, and you need a guy that can just fix everything. And everyone's happy, and I don't know, it's been a great listen. It's been really fun what I've come here to accomplish and what's happening, and I'm just really happy to be here.
Well, I mean, I can see when you talk about riding, you light up. And I just wish for you that this injury, takes care of itself and you get better and you can start riding again, because that's your passion. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think if you do come back, you're going to come back hungrier than your last. It's like I'm in the twilight of my career. I'm at the 8th pole, and I know I'm a competitive person. You have to be in this game.
Yeah.
But like in my final 1/8 of a mile, I'm working hard to kill them. Right? It's just you have the I didn't lose the fire, and you haven't lost the fire. And I hope that you do, that I see you in the entry somewhere, and I could text you and say congrats,
Oh,
because I know how hard, I know what it means to you, and I know how hard the work is to get back to that point. And if you don't do that, if that is something that doesn't happen, you're going to find your niche in the game, whether it's be a jockey's agent, bloodstock agent is a possibility. Just don't go into real estate. Stay away from that ain't, for some reason, I think that's like plan G.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean,
Yeah.
try everything else, before you do that again. But I have a good feeling. It's you're progressing, you're working these horses, you're getting on horses every day, and you're getting stronger. It's not, you wish you were back riding today.
Yeah.
But time goes fast,
Mm-hmm.
and you keep doing what you're doing, and you're going to get back there. I promise.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
It's a
no, thank
pleasure
you.
having you on the show. It really was.
For me too. So
Yeah,
thank you so
thanks
much.
a lot.
Yeah.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you enjoyed meeting Chantal Sutherland in the winner's circle. I'm Tom Amello. He's Michael Kipnis. We're getting ready to ship out on this week's Get Tied On. And so we've got a couple of things to talk about here before we go. And one of them You know, on our previous show, Michael mentioned that he had a horse he was going to run here. If he got the right spot came up. Name of the horse is Reddington. This is a horse that he claimed 4 or 5 races back, I think, along with Eddie Barker, trainer Eddie Barker, whose interview with Get Tied On you can still see at the wizardracingsports.com website. And so, Wiz, we talked about what do you do with Reddington? You know, it's almost like the old Sound of Music. What are you going to do about Maria? It's a great song and a great scene. What are you going to do about Reddington? Where are we going to put him? How are we going to run him? And so, why don't you explain to folks the machinations of Machiavelli over here, getting a spot for a horse and getting a win?
You know, we privately purchased the horse, and
Right.
this was the 4th race for us. And the first race was off a layoff, and it was in a killer field. That allowance race was more like a stakes race, won by Ben Duke, who came back to win. Several horses ran well out of that. He jumped tire tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he's quirky because at Aqueduct, they have those tire tracks,
Right.
1 mile shoot, and he just got spooked, jumped them, and that was it. He dueled through a fast pace and quit. Then I tried him in 1.125 miles, right? And I told the rider in a paceless race, gun to the lead, set the pace. What happens? The starter, not intentionally, holding the reins, and when the field broke, he broke behind. He broke last, and the jockey rated him and was struggling with him. Toss out race. Then I found a great spot at Monmouth.
This is funny, folks. You got to hear this one.
The one at Monmouth.
The one at Monmouth, because they're racing up here at Belmont.
Right.
It was a soft spot.
It was a soft. I thought it was. I take a train from New York, like 5 hours to get there,
Yeah.
sit around for 10 races, and finally have a great ride. And I'm catching a closer's bias, and he's sitting a fast pace, and it's a killer field again.
Yeah, and it's a killer field because they were running the Belmont Festival up here, not running in New York, and you thought you were going to have a soft spot with Jersey horses, and several New York trainers
decided to shut in, right? And another, ridiculous spot, right? So now I come back to New York and run him again, and he jumps tire tracks again, is now dead last, right, in a race where the winner ran like a 93 buyer, and he runs 3rd. He runs good, but I like the way he rated. So now I'm saying, I got to win with this horse. I need a spot. Well, fortunately, they wrote a starter handicap for horses that have run for $25,000 or less, but they wrote it differently than New York. The conditions were for horses that have run for 25 in 2023 and 24, not with this. Yeah, you couldn't have won a starter handicap, right? Which made us ineligible.
Which, by the way, is why you read the conditions.
Right.
Michael's giving you a lesson now as to what the condition book means to owners and trainers, and what it should mean, and what the conditions on the top of the page when you're handicapping, what it should mean to you as a handicapper.
So now I'm saying, okay, they wrote a 7-furlong race for a starter 25, and I'm cutting him back, and I like that at Saratoga. It's a deeper track. I love cutbacks. I know he can rate. He had rated in Gulfstream. He hadn't won rating, but he hadn't had many chances sprinting and rating. And then to boot, I have coffee almost every day with jockey Ramon Vasquez and his agent, Billy Castle. And I said, no more Carmouche, nothing against him, but no more Carmouche.
Jockey switch.
I'm making a jockey switch to Vasquez. And now I have like 3 days to plot this out. Like every day I'm sitting down. Okay, there's this scenario.
No, you called me too many times.
Well, I needed the score. I needed the score. I knew he was in a good spot. All you're looking for is the right setup and spot. When there was like 4 speed horses entered in the race, I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll go 2 for 2 in my
Then they
lifetime at
scratched 2 of
Saratoga. They scratched 2 of the speeds. So now I'm a little more worried, right? The bet's going to be cut down, right? No, I never thought we were getting 7-1.
No.
Never in
In
a
a
million
short
years,
field.
in a short field. And I said to Ramon, there's at least 2 speeds. Just sit third. No change of strategy.
We did get 5-1 on Street Trust in a
No, we got more than that.
No,
We got 6-1.
6-1 on
Right.
Street Trust in a 5-horse field.
Yeah, but that was a clever put over.
Yeah,
That was
well, I was just trying to bring it back.
yeah, no, that was that one we plotted out just
That's-
perfectly.
Yeah, we got
But
that.
this one, he sat third. The pace was wicked. He made a middle move to get in contention, and he won by 3.5
Yeah,
lengths.
and the way they were knocking heads up front, he looked a winner almost all the way.
I mean,
Ramon gave him a great ride.
we were watching the TV, but we were watching the race, and me and my wife Noreen, and you and Renee, and my cousin Larry,
And Eddie
and
B.
Eddie B. And at the 8th pole, I called it a winner. And Larry's like, you're putting the kibosh. I said, he's winning. You just saw it, right?
Come on.
And then we got to
Okay.
the winner's circle and it was
That's right.
surreal. Noreen
I'm
led the
getting
horse.
chills right here.
Yeah, Noreen led the horse in. And to boot,
Maggie Wolfendale gives you, airtime on Fox.
that's what
That's the home run.
That's the home run. And that's a tribute to being a lover, not a hater the last
Yeah.
year. Being, kind to everybody, a new
And it's
changed wizard.
It's also a tribute, really, to Maggie sensing the karma in the winner's circle. You and Noreen and everything, and really kudos and a salute to Maggie for giving you guys the time to tell your story.
No, it was
She was very
tremendous.
gracious.
It was tremendous. And then we got the winner's circle pictures. I couldn't wait to give you one
That's
hot
right.
off the press.
That's
To
right.
send them to my friend. Nothing like winning a race at Saratoga. And when you're with people that you care
Yeah.
about, it's just
Wow.
it's really special. It even, there's something, and you see it day in and day out. It doesn't matter what type of race it is.
It's so hard to win a race anywhere, and then you compound that by being here, where everybody's really trying to win.
right. And we're going to try to win a
We're
second
gonna
time.
try and get
I hope they put that starter 25 at 7 furlongs up once again.
right, or
And it doesn't even guarantee a win.
Nothing guarantees it.
Everything is hard here.
my phrase is, even when you think you know, you don't.
Right. And we're not,
Right.
next time we ain't getting no 7-1. If that's the spot. I don't think so.
Anything else on the Travers you want to talk about before we
Not the
leave?
Travers, but the Whitneys
The
got a
Whitneys.
huge field.
Yep.
National Treasure, I saw Arizona
from
made
9 to
9 to 5.
9 to 5.
And that's an awfully short price on a field of, it's 12, I think, in
Yep,
there.
12 in
You
the
know,
field.
But he's drawn a good post. It's Bob Baffert.
Speed.
Right. Baffert will be here for sure because the sales.
Right.
And now that he's welcome back to Churchill
Persona
Downs,
grata.
yeah, the Kentucky Derby, I'm sure he's going to be shopping around for that next Derby winner.
Yeah, that's what he does, and he does it well. Well, that's going to bring us to the end. We're going to ship out for a week. A lot of good guests coming in the future. So you watch Get Tied On the Wizards Thoroughbred Racing channel on YouTube. What I gotta get some more glue for my teeth. And we're brought to you by wizardracingsports.com. Have a great week.
Visit wizardracingsports.com and purchase now. Since 1986, the Wizard has been your source for the best handicapping products for the always challenging Saratoga meet. Wizard selections include analysis and wagering strategies for every race. Wagers are updated after late scratches. The Wizard wagers every day, backing up his opinions with his own money. Visit wizardracingsports.com and purchase now.